Your phone buzzes. Before you've even read it, something in you has already decided how to feel. A stranger's breakdown scrolls past, and in under a second, you've ruled. He's ruined. A stranger's win flashes by, and you've ruled. She's happy. You didn't choose either verdict. It just arrived, fully formed, faster than you could catch it forming. The old Stoics noticed this exact split, long before there were screens built to trigger it. They said, two different things happen in you every time something lands. One automatic, one not. In a moment, I'll show you the precise line they drew between those two, the one that decides whether that stranger's face becomes a fact you carry or just an impression passing through. And by the end, I want to show you what it actually feels like once that line gets picked back up. Not gritted teeth, not fewer notifications, just a stillness that doesn't need the noise to stop. So let's start where they started. Here's what the Stoics noticed long before screens existed. Something in you receives the world, and something else looks at what's been received. Two different jobs. The first one is automatic. A sound reaches your ear, a sight reaches your eye. You can't stop that part. But the second one is not automatic. It's a faculty that examines the impression itself, that asks whether it deserves to become a thought you carry. Epictetus said this plainly, that there is a power in us capable of judging appearances, the same way some faculty judges music or grammar, proving their use, naming their proper occasion. Nothing else does that job. And that gap between the arriving and the judging is not a technical detail. It's where a self actually lives.
So, separate the two piles.
On one side, the headline, the stranger's opinion, the outrage cycle spinning through your feed. These are, in the old language, externals. Not up to you, not touched by your will. They will arrive whether you invite them or not. On the other side, what you do once they land. That part is yours entirely. Epictetus put it simply, will is in your power, externals are not. So don't call anything outside your will good or bad. Picture stillness, a surface of water. A ray of light falls on it and seems to bend when the water moves. But the light was never moving. It only looked that way. Your notifications are the ripple. You were always the water. Here's the uncomfortable part. Knowing this doesn't make you immune to it. Epictetus admitted it himself. We are caught half asleep by every impression, and it's only in rare, deliberate moments that we wake up at all. You leave the classroom, so to speak, and see someone weeping, and instantly you think, he is ruined. You see someone successful, and instantly, he is happy. No pause, no judgment, just verdict. Scroll for 5 minutes, and you'll do this a dozen times. A stranger's breakdown, a stranger's launch video, absorbed as fact instead of appearance. Weeping is opinion, he said. Bad fortune is opinion. Not because pain isn't real, but because the verdict you attach to it is manufactured, and you manufactured it without noticing. Here's why this matters more than it sounds like it should. Epictetus warned that not attending is never a one-time event. It's a habit that forms in you, quietly, every time you skip it. First, a habit of not attending. Then, a habit of deferring attention, telling yourself you'll examine it later. And each deferral pushes off, a little further, the actual business of living in accordance with your own nature. Once you let the mind loose, he said, you can't just call it back to modesty or moderation whenever you like. It does whatever comes into it, obedient to impulse. So the scroll isn't a lapse, it's a rehearsal. Every unexamined swipe trains the very faculty that's supposed to examine, to stay asleep a little longer.
Now the honest objection.
And you should hear it in full because it's fair. Ask people to examine every impression, and someone will say, "Fine in theory, but look at what you're up against." Feeds don't wait for reflection, they're built for reflex. Autoplay, infinite scroll, triggers tuned to make you react before you think. Isn't demanding judgment here a little unrealistic? Seneca heard a version of this 2,000 years earlier and didn't dodge it. Your promises are too great, people told him. Your standards too hard. We're mere mannequins, unable to refuse ourselves anything. His answer wasn't comforting, but it was clean. We don't lack the power. We refuse to believe we have it. We're in love with the vice, and we'd rather excuse it than shake it off. Not a capacity problem, a willingness problem. So, what does it actually feel like? A faculty that's been trained rather than left asleep. Not agitation and not suppression either, not gritting your teeth against the feed. Seneca described it as a kind of steadiness that doesn't depend on the noise stopping. You know you're at peace with yourself, he said, when no sound reaches you, no word shakes you loose, whether it's flattery, threat, or just empty buzzing. A mind that startles at every sound hasn't withdrawn into itself yet. It's still carrying fear around inside it. Picture the line again. It doesn't need the feed to go silent, it simply stops moving with it. I'm curious, honestly, when was the last time a notification landed and you felt that kind of stillness instead of the pull? Tell me where you actually land on this.
So here's the thesis, plainly.
You are not your opinions, you are not your feed, and you are not your reactions to it. Those are all just impressions passing through. Water taking a ray of light. What you actually are is the standing faculty that decides what gets to become belief at all. Seneca described the mature mind as one that hides away everything that fed it and shows only what it has made from that material. That's not a productivity trick. That's the recovery of the one part of you that was never actually available to be taken. Not by an algorithm, not by a stranger's crisis, not by outrage engineered to move you before you notice you're moving. So the notification still comes. It always will. That was never the part you controlled. But watch the line now. It doesn't refuse the pulse, doesn't flinch away from it. It simply lets it pass without bending, because somewhere in this, it remembered something simple. Judgment was never a thing the world could reach in and use on your behalf. It was always sitting there, quietly, waiting for you to pick it back up. Maybe that's worth sitting with for a moment before your next scroll. What would you let pass today without letting it become belief?